Okay, back on Play It Forward with Christine Celozzi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here. Writer, director, actor of My Friends, the Plants.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit and the narrative of the film before we get started?
Sure. My name is Christine Celozzi. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I moved out to Los Angeles, where I live now, in 2016, and I hit the ground running, wanting to be an actor, which is how I got into it, and then finding that I enjoyed writing, directing as well, and creating parts for myself that I could see myself in, and that kind of reflected my own voice. So, My Friends the Plants is a mockumentary horror comedy. It is about a woman who is being held hostage by vampire plants, and she comes up with a plan to kind of escape once and for all.
Nice. Thank you. That's a great intro. The coast to coast shift. I'm sure there's a cultural adjustment there. That's interesting, and I wonder if that weaves into the story in any way for you or not. But the first question of the show is the inspiration, the idea, that kernel, that seed that like popped in your mind. You're like, oh, I think I could make a movie around this. What was that?
Well, I had actually won a Woman in Film Fellowship Award through the 𝘍𝘳𝘪�ឍMemorial Foundation, Inc. And I was granted um, an amount of money in order to make a film over the following year to show at their festival, the 𝘍𝘳𝘪𝘁 Film Festival. Um, and so I had this idea in mind, and then COVID hit. And the idea that I had was more of a drama. And so when COVID hit, I had to go back to the drawing board and kind of come up with something new. And I wrote and I rewrote and I wrote and I rewrote. And I kept sharing it with my friends who know me really well. And I kept getting the same feedback, which was, we know what you're capable of, and it's much weirder than this. And so I just kept kind of playing with things and throwing, spaghetti at the wall and seeing what would stick. And eventually I gave up. And I feel like as an artist, when you give up, that's typically when something incredible happens. Which was, I was walking down the street and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make a film about a woman who's being held hostage by vampire plants. And they were like, that's it. And I was like, come on, you gotta be kidding me. But okay, let's do it. And so I wrote it. And it was kind of like taking pieces from all the scripts that I had written earlier that year and piecing them all together into this new story that was created. And my friends were very honest with me, which I was very grateful for. And I think by the time we actually ended up shooting, we were on version 17 of the script.
Wow.
So it's a building process.
That's cool. And I love how the story is really one of surrender. I think in our lives, that's a theme, when we surrender to something, something else can open. Um, that's really cool. The second question is the message of the film. And do you have kids?
Mm-mm.
Okay, because anyone who does reads and interprets a story as a parable about child rearing and raising. I got a 3-year old, and I'm telling you, that is what it feels like.
Like you're being held hostage by your
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
I have
yes.
nieces, so I get that for sure.
What'd you say?
I have nieces.
Oh, you have nieces? Yeah, I mean, it's a blood sucking relationship, and the demands for attention, which you mentioned with the only other person they'll let in is is for the need for fame, and the demand for and testing the boundaries, which they do with the little water scene. I mean, I was like, okay, this is about child rearing, and I don't know if that was consciously or not, but what's the message of the film as you see it now as a viewer?
Um, I think it's kind of like when I wrote it, I wasn't writing it to have a message. Like it was one of those things where I was like, I'm just gonna write something that I enjoy. And growing up, comedy was like the thing that I fell back on that always made me feel better whenever I was having a tough time. But now in retrospect, after I wrote it, I'm like, oh wait, it does reflect your life a little bit. And so, you go through periods of time where you feel stuck in this situation and you don't know how to get out of it, and you don't know if you're even capable of getting out of it, and then something comes along where eventually something snaps and breaks, and you do get out of it, and then you look back and you're kind of like, oh, okay, there are pieces of it that really sucked, and that was really hard. But then, like, I don't want to give away too much for the film, but with the twist at the end, you're like, there were good things, and maybe there were things that I overlooked at the time,
Mm,
and there were areas of growth. So
yeah,
yeah, I haven't thought of it in that way though. Like, I haven't really sat down to think about what the message of my film was. I just thought it was something that was funny that would make people laugh, and
for
that's
sure.
what I really enjoyed doing.
For sure. And I totally get that. And I personally see, it's a narrative, it's a story. It starts as a thing on paper. So there is an arc to it. And naturally there's, meaning that's going to be interpreted. And I really enjoy, looking for the messages. And, in your movie, there's that kind of that parental relationship. That's one, it's big thematic. And then which the character wants to escape. And then there is this parental relationship by the seemingly innocuous like force that is controlling your life, right? Much like a 3-year-old. And how do you overcome the burden, I mean, the overwhelming burden, the demand for survival that this other life force is placing on you?
hmm Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I said, I hadn't thought of it, and it's so interesting to get another person's perspective on what they took away from the film. But now that you mention it, I can totally see that side of it where it's like, yeah, you know, they're in survival mode where they need to survive, but then like our protagonist is also in survival mode. Like, she needs to preserve herself as well. And so, you get to, like I said, you get to that breaking point where something snaps and you're finally like, I need a change. I can't do this anymore. I
Yeah,
mean, with kids, you can't necessarily do that. You just have to find ways to make a compromise, I guess, or, it's always a learning curve. Like
yeah.
I said, I see with my nieces, and kids do test the boundaries, and I hadn't I hadn't really made that connection, but it makes total sense.
You share it, get this movie to young mothers, somehow, some way, get it to young mothers. I think they'll love it.
Well, my sister loves it, and
Oh,
so
there you have it.
it's on like a subconscious level
Right,
where she's
for
like, "Oh, I
sure.
can really relate to this."
Yeah, she's like, this is my life. Yeah. That's great. And then the final question to play it forward is, after making this movie, how has the experience of it changed you as a person?
I can't even like begin to explain. I never saw myself as a director or a writer initially when I first got into acting. And then I was given this opportunity and I took it and ran with it. And the doors that it has opened for me, I like, it blows my mind looking back on where I was 2 years ago in my career. And granted, it was COVID and everything, but even in 2019, and then where I am now, and how much more serious I take myself, and how I feel a lot more proud of myself and can carry that into conversations and feel like, yeah, I deserve to be having this conversation. Whereas, when you first get into acting, you don't really know what you're doing, and there is no direct path. It's kind of figuring it
Right.
out for yourself, and everybody paves their own path. And so it was kind of just allowing myself to feel that confidence of, yeah, I am an artist. I'm allowed to claim that, and I'm allowed to make things that make me happy, and put myself out there. And it gave me the courage to be able to step up and say, okay, I made this and I really liked how this came out. It was like, my baby for a while, but now I have a new baby. And I've been kind of like figuring that one out. And it just allows you the courage to say, okay, I'm going to do this stuff. I'm going to put it out there. And maybe some people will love it and maybe some people won't. But no matter what, when you're putting things out there, you're opening up doors and opportunities that wouldn't be there for you before. And I've been a witness to that. And it's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. And, stepping into your own personhood and maturity as an artist and as just a person, this is who you are and this is what you do. And this is how you, interact with the world. It's a very powerful, empowering, embodying process.
Yeah.
Um,
And then finding your voice and allowing yourself to find your
yeah,
voice and
yeah,
realizing that there are
yeah,
people out there who want to hear what you have
yeah,
to say from your own unique experience. It's been a wild ride.
for sure.
Like I said, I'm very grateful for.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Christine Celozzi, we want to hear more from you and your voice. So I want to see this next baby that you got on the way. Please share it with us. And thank you so much for being in on the show. We really appreciated having you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure. Till next time. Bye.